she herself said repeatedly, many times, that she could never win unless she had at least the bulk of the Protestant churches on her side. That was her central goal, was to bring them over. She did this through several committees. She did it by working with the eugenics movement, which also had clergy committees. And she proved to be the stronger advocate. There was a lot of confusion on the Protestant side. In particular, the people that should have stood up didn't. They found it much easier to go with the flow of the culture. And so her victory, like I say, well, she had to, in some ways, I guess you'd say, back off the eugenic argument by the late 1940s, but in every other way, her victory was quite complete. And it could never have happened without the support of her Protestant allies.
I think about the American landscape on this issue even today, as you pointed out in your first response, with legalized, government-funded and government-encouraged abortion policies and other policies regarding birth control. I wonder then, finally, has the battleground, has the lines on the battleground shifted much since Sanger's initial victory with Christians?
Well, they're shifting right now because there are pockets of religious communities in America who have avoided what we call Sangerism. And I think they're poised to dominate the future. There's a fine book I just finished reading. I know this is not on our agenda, but it's by Eric Kaufman, a British scholar, called "Shall the Religious Inherit the Earth?" Question mark. And his answer is yes, they will. Religious people who are still committed to large families and to focus on children are the ones who will shape the future. And he produces some quite startling numbers and projections. They're the ones who are we talking about? Well, it's everybody from the old order Amish to the quiverful evangelical movement to traditional Latin Mass Catholics to American Mormons to Hasidic Jews. All groups that have managed to escape, I guess you'd say, the gospel of Sanger, and all of whom are growing quite rapidly, and as he puts it, he's not a Christian himself, he's a secular liberal. They will dominate and control the future.
Dr. Alan Carlson is president of the Howard Center for Family, Religion, and Society, author of the books Conjugal America and The Natural Family, and a forthcoming publication titled Godly Seed, American Evangelicals Confront Birth Control. He's also written a fascinating article in the latest issue of Touchstone magazine titled Sanger's Victory. We'll post a link to the Howard Center at our website, issuesetc.org. Click Listen on Demand. Dr. Carlson, thank you very much.
Happy to be with you.
Yeah.
I think I missed some of those answers.
Yeah, you do.
Hopefully you got the ones I did, and I got the ones you didn't. All right.
So did you get the worksheet offline, or did you make it up?
I made this up.
So how'd you miss the questions or the answers?
I missed them this time. I was looking up some other Bible passages while I was doing this.
Yeah, I got distracted too, so I missed some on the back.
Yeah. I hope this was somewhat interesting to listen to. You know, it's a topic that isn't broached very often. I mean, let's face it, that the Christian church has largely gone with the culture on this one, minus probably in many cases on the issue of actual abortion. You know, there still is a significant opposition to abortion within Christendom today. But the ideals that Sanger stood for have been widely accepted, at least some of them, by the majority of Christians today. And it wasn't always that way. You know, this is actually somewhat of a recent thing in terms of at least the Christian church's history. So we'll go through the questions here, and please ask questions, make comments as we go along. First question, how has Planned Parenthood turned out to be what Margaret Sanger hoped it would be?
Well, she wanted legalized abortion.
Okay.
Birth control. It's free.
Okay.
And
The wide acceptance, that's what I'm looking for, the wide acceptance of family size control, and along with that, a key part of that is abortion as well. And then also for those to be made available for low cost, if not free, federally funded type resources. And Planned Parenthood is still like that today. It's pretty cheap to go to Planned Parenthood. You can get certain types of birth control for free there. You can have procedures done for very low cost, especially if you're low income or things like that. So it remains that today. It has succeeded in providing a low cost way for women, obviously in particular, to exercise that control over their reproduction. How has Planned Parenthood not fulfilled Sanger's vision? Did you catch that?
Yeah, no eugenics.
Okay. Yeah, no overt eugenics campaign. You won't see things on Planned Parenthood's website saying, you know, we are for the extinction of African Americans. Okay, but Sanger would have said that. Also, apparently, the Puerto Ricans, he said she was in favor of exterminating if at all possible. Who in history does this remind you of? Hitler. You have to realize that she was living during the same time as Hitler. This is coming right from the Hitler type mindset. He's been demonized, Sanger's been praised in culture, right? I mean, no one speaks highly of Hitler, and hardly anyone speaks negatively of Sanger. What's going on there? That's a question to think about, when really they stood for the same thing. Obviously Hitler was more obviously successful, right? I mean, he was killing adult human beings. Sanger's was a little more subversive, killing young, unborn human beings and preventing life.
She didn't have the power, really.
Yeah, correct. She was not the leader of a nation either. But isn't it interesting how they stood for the same ideals in many cases, and yet one is praised largely, one is demonized largely. Okay.
But Sanger in part had religious leaders support her too.
Yeah.
So as that was coming out of the pulpits.
Yeah.
So
Unfortunately, Hitler.
anti-demonizing, right?
Yeah. Right.
So
And Hitler had religious support as well, unfortunately, oddly enough. Yeah. Well, what is eugenics? It's important for us to define that before we get too far into the discussion.
Science of human breeding.
Okay? Yeah. You genetically engineer the perfect racehorse, and so you can also genetically engineer the perfect human race. And this is becoming more and more possible as time goes on, especially when you can create life now outside of the womb. You can choose what color eyes your baby has, what gender he or she is going to be, etc., etc. And again, this sounds a lot like Hitler, right? The perfect Aryan race. How would the U.S. look today if Sanger's wishes had come true?
The old wasps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, I mean, it sounds like, she was against African Americans and Puerto Ricans, which I suppose we could say are, like Hispanics at least, of that type of nationality. But you have to imagine the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King. That was kind of coming to a head here when this eugenics emphasis probably started to decline. You see those two things kind of butting heads. And notice that Planned Parenthood was very eager to drop the eugenics aspect as that began to rise up in America.
Anyway, any idea why she didn't strike out against other minorities, Asians?